What does it take to become an Air Force flight nurse? Age 18, you graduate high school. You tell people you want to be a flight nurse in the Air Force. They ask what that is. You say, I'm going to keep wounded soldiers alive on a plane flying out of a combat zone. They stop laughing. Salary, $0. Age 22, 4 years of nursing school. A Bachelor of Science in Nursing from an accredited program. Anatomy, pharmacology, clinicals, and the NCLEX-RN. You pass. You're a licensed, registered nurse. But the Air Force won't take you yet. They require at least 1 year of clinical experience in acute care before you can even apply. Salary, $0. Age 23, first year as a civilian registered nurse, ICU or ER, 12-hour shifts, codes, trauma. You're building the skills the Air Force wants. Salary, $75,000. Age 24, you apply to the Air Force Nurse Corps. They run a background investigation, a flying class medical exam, psych evaluation, and officer screening. You must be between 18 and 47, a U.S. citizen, and in serious physical shape. You get commissioned as a second lieutenant and ship off to commissioned officer training at Maxwell Air Force Base. 5.5 weeks of physical training, leadership courses, and Air Force culture. You went in a nurse. You come out an officer who's also a nurse. Big difference. Salary, $72,000. Age 25, flight nurse school, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. 5.5 weeks of altitude physiology, aerospace medicine, aircraft systems, and survival training. You learn how the human body changes at 30,000 feet, how pressure affects wounds, how to run a code with one arm braced against turbulence, how to move a critical patient off a C-17 and keep them alive doing it. Salary, $95,000. Age 26, first mission. You board a C-17 loaded with litters. Your patients are service members with injuries most hospitals will never see. Burns, blast trauma, spinal injuries. Your ICU is a cargo plane. Your monitor alarms compete with the roar of engines. You manage ventilators at altitude, push drugs, monitor vitals, and make decisions for hours before the plane lands. They survive because you were on that flight. Salary, $100,000. Age 30, captain. You've logged hundreds of flight hours evacuating patients from conflict zones, disaster zones, and places the news doesn't cover. You've been awake for 36 hours and made calls that kept people alive. Salary, $125,000. Age 38, major. You're leading aeromedical evacuation teams now, training newer flight nurses. A young lieutenant asks you how you handle the pressure. You tell her the truth. You don't handle it. You just trust your training and trust the team. Because when that plane takes off, it's you, your crew, and a dozen patients whose families are praying they come home. Salary, $150,000.